When my husband was messing around with his mistress on horseback, I was reborn. The horse went wild, and my husband jumped off first. But the mistress broke her leg. He was sure I had something to do with it, and threatened to divorce me. Then he turned and boldly confessed his love to the peasant girl selling vegetables on the street. Yao Yao is the love of my life. If I can't be with her forever, I'd rather become a monk. I became a laughingstock in an awkward situation. But my husband said I deserved it. You ruined me in the last life. It is already merciful of me not to have reported you to the authorities in this life. But how would he know that he wouldn't die by my hand a second time? When the news of Pei Wenyuan's accident reached the manor, I had just finished copying a Buddhist scripture. Bi Ching, who was grinding ink for me, rolled her eyes when she heard. It is all the young master's fault for insisting on accompanying that seductive woman horseback riding. He deserved to fall. I smiled and was about to remind her to be careful with her words when, the next second, the door was kicked open by Pei Wenyuan. Chu Qinggren, you venomous woman. Qinghe has no grudge against you, yet you harmed her and made her break her leg. If I hadn't reacted quickly, I would have almost become crippled too. You still have the nerve to act like nothing happened. You are beyond saving. While speaking, Pei Wenyuan tore up my books and smashed my favorite inkstone. Even the Buddhist scripture I had just finished copying was thrown on the ground, stomped and kicked. Who are you putting on this devout act for? He sneered. If we hadn't gotten lucky and escaped today, we'd be dead by now. Buddha would never bless a vile wretch like you. Pei Wenyuan made a big fuss, glancing at the door from time to time, a sharp glint in his eyes. This look wasn't like he was here to question me, but rather to condemn me. As expected, my single retort only provoked fiercer condemnation from Pei Wenyuan. Even now, you dare to quibble. A woman like you who has done nothing but evil and murdered her own husband is not fit to be the young madam of my marquise's mansion. Pei Wenyuan uttered his harsh words and turned to leave. Not long after, the Pi family opened the ancestral hall, invited the clan elders, and held a joint trial. And I, like a prisoner, felt malicious gazes from all directions. It was vexing. Husband, must you be so heartless? I looked at Pei Wenyuan, my eyes brimming with tears, hoping he would change his mind. But he turned his head away, saying one moment I, as the young madam of the marquise's mansion, was too jealous to tolerate other women, and the next that my methods were too cruel and that my staying would only implicate the marquise's mansion. You were originally just the daughter of a tenant farmer. It was the marquise's mansion that gave you wealth and status. You can't be ungrateful. Pei Wenyuan's words were met with tacit approval from his parents. They say they feel bad for me, but they don't say a word to clear my name. Instead, they use the excuse of doing what is best for me and try to demote me to a concubine. Even the clan elders, who always look down on me, seemed to gain confidence at this moment, their expressions arrogant. When it comes to being a person, you have to know your place. Don't think you've really become a phoenix just because you've flown onto a branch. The daughter of a mere tenant farmer, if it weren't for needing you to ward off bad luck back then, I doubt you would have ever stepped foot into this marquise's mansion in a million years. Now it is just about returning things to how they were. Madam, you'd better not push your luck. If you make too much of a scene, be careful your tenant farmer parents' old age isn't guaranteed. I looked around, and my mood didn't stir even a ripple. My hand rested on my belly, and I smiled slightly. But father and mother, your daughter, in-law truly cannot bear to let the child be born as merely a concubine's son. I caressed my belly, smiling gently. Silence filled the room for a moment. After a long pause, Pei Wenyuan suddenly stood up, and the chair behind him clattered to the ground. Chu Qing, what other tricks are you trying to pull? Don't think you can get away with it by saying this. Pregnancy, children. It is all definitely fake. I guess I misjudged you. To think you'd even lie like this for the marquisate's wealth and honor. You really are deep and scheming, hemph. He pointed at me, visibly furious. I shook my head, took Pei Wenyuan's hand, and placed it on my belly. Husband, I am really pregnant. You are going to be a dad." But he quickly pulled his hand back, looked at me with disgust, and a smile of unknown meaning curled up on his lips. "If you want me to believe it, you can. Let the mansion doctor check your pulse and I'll believe it." Before I could speak, Payweni Fane had already sent someone to fetch him. "If you are not pregnant, get out of the Marquise's mansion," he swore with his arms crossed, admiring my crumbling body from his words. But when the mansion doctor took my pulse and confirmed that I was indeed pregnant, Payweni Fane panicked. "How is this possible?" he murmured softly. "This is impossible. I clearly wasn't pregnant in the last life. Why has it turned out this way in this life?" He slumped onto the chair, his eyes looking dejected. But my in-laws couldn't sit still anymore. They first scolded him for being a fool, and then said that what he had just said about divorcing me was all null and void. "Take good care of your body. As long as you give birth to Weni Fane's eldest son, you will be a great contributor to the PI family. As for that vixen outside of Weni Fane, don't worry. Mother will definitely not let her cause trouble again." "But Mother," my husband said, "I caused that horse to go mad, this matter." I frowned in worry, and before I could finish, the Marquise's wife directly interrupted me. She patted my hand, smiling at me kindly for a change. "Mother believes this matter has nothing to do with you. It must be Wenyan, who was too impatient and lost his sense of proportion. Once the real culprit is caught, I will make him apologize to you properly." The Marchioness's attitude changed drastically. The Marquis remained silent, and after the other clan elders exchanged a look, they all began to praise me for being virtuous and blessed. The harmonious atmosphere no longer had a shred of the previous tension. Biqing breathed a sigh of relief, and just as she was about to take me back to rest, Pi Wenyan rushed forward and blocked the doorway. He still didn't believe I was pregnant. Instead, he thought I was having an affair with another man and carrying a bastard, insisting on throwing me out of the Marquis's estate. But I am just soft-natured, not without a temper. Being repeatedly targeted by Pacey Wenyan, I had long run out of patience. I took a few steps back, smashed the teacup on the table, and pressed a sharp shard against my neck as tears silently slid down my face. "Husband, you despise my low birth, and I accept that, but you shouldn't slander me like this. Do you know how important her innocence is to a woman? Since you don't believe me, husband, then today, I Ching Ran will prove my innocence with my death." The shard pierced my skin, and beads of blood welled up. At the critical moment, Ching lunged over, knocked me to the ground, and snatched the shard away. Turning my head, I shouted hoarsely at Pie Wenyuan, "Master, the young mistress is devoted to you. Are you trying to force her to her death?" Watching Pei Wenyuan's pupils constrict, and listening to the worried scolding voices of my in-laws in my ears, I closed my eyes contentedly and fainted. When I woke up again, the sun was already high in the sky. I stretched, and under Biqing's insistence, I ate a whole bowl of longan, red date, and lotus seed porridge. She sighed, "Madam, your acting is really good. It is just that this injury looks frightening." Pretending to die was a pretense, but Pei Wenyuan's reputation for forcing his wife to her death was real. The master and madam were furious and scolded the young master. Did they use family law? That wasn't the case. Biqing shook her head. Seeing this, I let out a scoff and gently placed my hand on my belly. I should thank this child. Otherwise, if I really died, I am afraid the entire family of the Marquise's mansion would applaud, and no one would stand up for me. Perhaps because of the scolding from my in-laws. Not long after I woke up, Pei Wenyuan actually came to visit proactively. However, his gaze lingered on the wound on my neck, and he didn't speak for a long time, his eyes churning with emotions that were hard to understand. After a while, he explained to me that it was unintentional. His palm covered mine, our fingers intertwined. "I was just too surprised, Qinggran. Can you forgive me?" His gentle demeanor was mesmerizing. I broke into a smile through my tears, tilting my head slightly to lean on his shoulder. After a moment of tenderness, I took the initiative to bring up bringing Qinghe into the Marquise's mansion. Before, I didn't know. Now that I know, I certainly can't act like nothing happened. Since you like her, husband, why not bring her in and give her a title? I was genuinely thinking of him. After all, one more or one less concubine couldn't shake my position. But after Pa Wenyan heard this, his body stiffened. He refused. He said that I am pregnant now, and he couldn't let anything affect me, and also said that he only pitied Chinghe and had no feelings for her, and that he would break things off cleanly with her today. Since he'd put it that way, it wasn't right for me to insist. But not long after, when I had recovered from my injuries and was preparing to leave the mansion, Chinghe, who was now limping on one leg, rushed in front of me, cursing me for being a hypocrite with a venomous heart, for cruelly breaking her and Pa Wenyan apart. Her hair was disheveled and she charged straight for my stomach, her eyes flickering. After being stopped by Beeching, her eyes were bloodshot, her face full of resentment. If you hadn't threatened him with the child in your belly, how could Brother Pa have abandoned me? Now that my leg is injured, how can I go on living without Brother Pichu Chingran? You are trying to drive me to my death. She fell to the ground, crying her heart out. The crowd slowly gathered, and I could faintly hear words like jealous and pitiful. The gazes cast upon me were like thorns on my back, just like that day in the ancestral hall. My expression remained unchanged as I explained that it was Pei Wenyuan's decision not to give her a formal title. However, I changed the subject, giving Bi Ching a signal to help Chinghe up. Considering you served my husband, I'll make the decision today to take you into the household. Are you willing? Are you serious? Chinghe looked skeptical. But Pei Lang clearly said you wouldn't let me into the manor. Nonsense, I interrupted Chinghe, my face instantly turning grim. My husband didn't want you as a concubine. He said long ago he wanted to cut ties with you. Now I've brought you into the Marquise's manor behind his back. And instead of being grateful, you dare to slander me. Chinghe couldn't tell who was telling the truth and who was lying. But at this moment, her face was a mixture of shock and uncertainty, clearly wavering. When she looked up again, she fell to her knees before me with a thump. This concubine, Chinghe, thanks madam for her great kindness. My smile deepened, and I made proper arrangements for her to enter the manor. Who wouldn't praise my magnanimity? It was just that Pei Wenyuan instigated this whole charade, all to make me lose the child, and at the same time, invite gossip. When he returns and learns of this outcome, his expression will surely be priceless. Thinking of this, my steps became much lighter. I didn't expect to see Pei Wenyan at the Jingsu Pavilion. I saw that not far away, he had his sleeves rolled up, helping a farm girl set up and sell vegetables. The corners of his eyes were crinkled in a smile, looking like he was thoroughly enjoying himself, a stark contrast to his usual image of being extremely concerned with propriety. This work is really tough. For Yao Yao to be able to stick with it for so long, she is truly a heroine. You are different from other women. Even my first wife can't compare to a single finger of yours. Hearing these words, Beeching couldn't help but feel indignant on my behalf. But as I looked at that woman named Yao Yao, my thoughts gradually drifted away. That look, with her expressive eyes and brows full of tender affection, was not something I was seeing for the first time. Back when I married Pa Wenyan to improve his luck, he was still a sickly man. Yet he always felt that he owed me. Sometimes he would write poems for me, and other times he would gift me precious gold and silver jewelry. He always urged me to remarry, telling me not to let him drag me down for the rest of my life. Back then, my feelings for him grew deeper and deeper, and the way I looked at him was just like Shu Yao's butt. People's hearts are fickle. Perhaps the Chongshi wedding was effective, as Pa Wenyan's health improved day by day. He could ride horses and go on spring outings. No matter how far he walked or how long he rode, he wouldn't get so tired that he'd faint. Having seen a wider world, I instead became a stain on his life that he could never wipe away. How could a woman from a tenant farmer background be worthy of the high and mighty heir of the Marquise's estate? Because of this, Pei Wenyan became even colder to me, and my parents-in-law regarded me as a thorn in their side, finding fault with me everywhere. They didn't want to earn a reputation for being ungrateful, so they could only throw mud at me again and again. The steward's dereliction of duty led to the theft of gold and silver from the estate. My improper behavior at the banquet brought shame upon the Marquise's estate, and even the horse going mad, resulting in the accusation of murdering my husband. One by one, all these incidents had long since worn away the last shred of affection I had for Pi Wenyan. Seeing such a look in his eyes again now, I only felt a sigh of regret. I did not appear rashly. After comforting Bi Ching, I withdrew my gaze, bought several sets of hair ornaments and clothes, and inspected the shops under my name again. Only then did I return to the estate. As I had expected, what greeted me was Pi Wenyan's furious questioning. "Why did you bring Ching He into the estate? Didn't I say I have no feelings for her, by acting on your own? Do you even regard me anymore?" I lowered my eyes, confused. She did serve my husband after all. If I don't take her in, the spittle might drown me. But I knew perfectly well what was going on in my heart. Pi Wenyan wanted this outcome. As expected, he couldn't be bothered to feign deep affection and instead urged me to send Ching He away. Yet, when I asked for the reason, his eyes darted away. "I just don't want her to affect us as a couple. She is pampered and willful, and you are pregnant. What if you upset her? So that is how it is. I thought my husband had someone else in mind, and that is why he is tired of Ching He." Before this, he had repeatedly disregarded my feelings for Ching He, but now he is not even willing to give her the title of concubine. He said it was for my sake. Ridiculous. As soon as the words fell, Pi Wenyan's eyes widened, and he forced a smile. "What nonsense are you talking about? I've always remembered your affection. How could I fall in love with someone else?" I lowered my eyelids. After so many years together, he knew exactly what he looked like when he lied. But even if there is no love, I will never give up this wealth and power. Pi Wenyan's words were full of flaws, and he didn't even bother to cover them up. Ever since Ching He entered the mansion, Pi Wenyan hadn't looked at her again. The vows of love they once exchanged had become empty words. She didn't understand. Her face grew more haggard during greetings, and she limped when she walked, yet stubbornly inquired about Pi Wenyan's whereabouts. "Lang Pei must be too busy. He is not intentionally avoiding me." Her self-deception didn't last long. Pi Wenyan went to help Shu Yao sell vegetables every day, and over time more people knew about it. He lowered himself, wearing a silk brocade robe, squatting on the street to hawk his wares. When Shu Yao couldn't sell everything, he waved his big hand and bought the rest of the dishes. Even when she was bullied, Pi Wenyuan would step forward to help her out of trouble. The noble sons in the capital who knew about it all teased him, calling him a love-struck fool. Word spread, and it eventually reached the manor. The in-laws heard it and gave her a few verbal scoldings. Ching He, however, couldn't accept it and cried uncontrollably in her room. By the time I arrived, a white silk noose was already hanging from the beam, and Ching He's head was just about to slip into it. My pupils contracted, and my heart almost skipped a beat. After being rescued, she still looked half dead. I slapped her directly and said coldly, "What did you submit yourself to Pi Wenyuan for? Now that you've become his concubine as you wished, living in the Marquise's mansion, what don't you have? Why are you trying to kill yourself? If you've had enough of living and want to die, go die outside. Don't die in front of me, you are an eyesore." I investigated Ching He. She was saved by Pi Wenyuan when she was selling herself to bury her father, and from then on she placed all her hopes on Pi Wenyuan. She was too deeply infatuated to understand why I was so calm, until I slapped her again. Ching He covered her face and glared at me aggrievedly. "If Madam doesn't want to say it, then don't. Why did you hit me again?" My tone was cold. Compared to Pi Wenyuan's love, isn't everything now worth your lingering on? Dying for Pi Wenyuan isn't worth it. Having said all that, after leaving, I arranged for people to keep an eye on Ching He. Not long after, I found a time to locate Shu Yao. I got straight to the point and revealed my identity. Shu Yao froze for a moment, seeming a little flustered, but the next second, she dropped to her knees with a thud. "Madam, Pei Lang and I are in love. Please grant us your blessing." I was silent for a moment, and Shu Yao bit her lip and continued. "I don't ask for much. I just want to be by Pei Lang's side. I beg, madam." "Shu Yao, do you want to know your origins?" I interrupted Shu Yao and helped her up. Under her surprised gaze, I spoke of Princess Mingzhu, the Emperor and Empress's lost pearl 17 years ago. It is said that Princess Mingzhu has a crescent moon mark on her lower back. I wonder if Miss Xu has one. As soon as I finished speaking, I took out the evidence of Pei Wenyuan bribing a hooligan to stage a damsel in distress rescue. "Miss Xu, do you think Pei Wenyuan doesn't know what I know?" Not only did he know, but he also wanted to trick Shu Yao while she hadn't yet regained her identity. At that time, Pei Wenyuan could benefit from Shu Yao's status, leaping from a ruined marquise's heir to the emperor's son-in-law. This would be a very good deal for him and the marquise's mansion. Shu Yao wasn't stupid, and although she didn't believe it right away, she still secretly kept her distance from Pei Wenyuan. Until an imperial decree arrived from the palace, Shu Yao's identity was confirmed, and the capital was instantly abuzz. Those who had once mocked Pei Wenyuan all changed their tune, praising his sharp eye and good luck. Even Pei Wenyuan was convinced that Shu Yao was deeply in love with him and began to dream of the future. Although the time to restore my identity has come much earlier, given Shu Yao's feelings for me, she will definitely petition His Majesty for a marriage decree. A dignified princess naturally cannot be a concubine. Qing Ran, you are the most sensible. Don't act out anymore. He wore a smile like a spring breeze in March, but soon he couldn't smile anymore. After Shu Yao entered the palace, she completely cut off contact with him. Pei Wenyuan tried every means to send several letters to the palace, but all of them received no response. At the same time, the palace held a banquet for Shu Yao. From royalty and nobility to officials of the 5th rank, all were invited. The marquise's mansion was naturally no exception. Therefore, after receiving the news, Pei Wenyuan excitedly ordered a new outfit and meticulously checked himself in the bronze mirror before leaving. In the carriage, I held his hand and praised him with a smile. "Husband, you look exceptionally handsome today. If you were still unmarried, you would surely attract the attention of other noble ladies." What I said was true. Pei Wenyuan was blessed with good looks, with thick eyebrows, big eyes, a straight nose bridge, and a fair face that was second to none in the capital. I praised him so much that he became full of confidence, especially when he noticed people subtly looking at him in the great hall. He straightened his back even more, like a peacock displaying its plumage, swaying gracefully. After the palace banquet began, Pei Wenyuan's eyes lit up. He stared fixedly at Shu Yao, and then raised his cup and walked towards her. "Yao Yao, are you doing well in the palace? I haven't received your reply for a while, and I was a little worried." Pei Wenyuan's voice was not quiet, drawing frequent glances from the people around him. But no matter what he said, Shu Yao remained indifferent. Instead, she bypassed Pei Wenyuan and smiled at me. Seeing this, Pei Wenyuan's expression stiffened, and he didn't know whether to drink his wine or not. He looked extremely awkward. Just as he was about to say something else, the emperor suddenly spoke. "I heard that my pearl was well taken care of by young Master Pei before." Pei Wenyuan was delighted. "Your subject dares not take credit. This is what your subject should do. Princess Pearl has outstanding temperament and resolute character. Even if she were an ordinary person, her elegance would be hard to conceal. My small effort is not worth mentioning." As he spoke, his gaze towards Shu Yao was tinged with a hint of tenderness. He thought the emperor, in his love for the crow, would surely reward them, and even more so, given their mutual affection, bestow marriage upon them. Unexpectedly, the emperor, after hearing this, smirked. Although he bestowed countless jewels upon the marquise's mansion, he said not a word about the marriage proposal. At the end, he even cautioned, "Mingzhu's status is noble. Only the most outstanding young talents of our country are worthy of her." Who this was directed at was obvious. Pei Wenyuan froze in place. Seeing Shu Yao indifferent, he became a laughingstock himself and could only flee back, covering his face. The wine glass in his hand was tightly clenched, and he held his breath, his face turning red, neither up nor down. I glanced at him and withdrew my gaze. Meeting Shu Yao's eyes head on, I got up and left the main hall. Before long, Shu Yao arrived as promised. She was not the same as before, dressed in magnificent palace attire, adorned with jewels in her hair. Her graceful demeanor made her seem reborn. Only, those eyes remained as clear as ever. Young Madam Pei, thank you for your reminder. This is all thanks to the princess's good fortune. Seeing me refuse, Shu Yao smiled. Even brighter, and the next second, she directly reached out and took my hand. You have been kind to me. From now on, no matter what kind of help you need, as long as I can provide it, I will definitely help. The corners of my lips curved slightly, and I curtsied to thank her. Indeed, having this backing, compared to giving it to the Marquise's mansion, it is better to hold it in one's own hands. But before I could be happy for long, Pacey Wenyan's figure appeared in the shade of the tree beside me, cold and resentful, like a venomous snake. After Shu Yao left, I was stopped on the spot by Pei Wenyan. He grabbed my wrist, squeezing tightly. You and Shu Yao knew each other from before. Did you say something to her? Otherwise, why would her attitude towards me change like this? Chu Qingran, tell me why. His eyes were bloodshot, and his body was no longer as frail as before. His grip made my wrist ache with pain. I sucked in a cold breath and flatly denied it, but when I saw the suspicious look in Pei Wenyan's eyes, I was so angry I laughed out loud. Husband, why are you so nervous? Could it be that husband likes the princess and really wants to make her your concubine? That won't do. The princess is of royal blood. How could she be your concubine? That is a great crime of offending the imperial family. Husband, you'd better. Enough. Pei Wenyan flew into a rage from shame, and finally let go of my hand. Yao Yao is a princess, of course she can't be a concubine. If not a concubine, then the main wife. No wonder from the very beginning. He tried every possible way to drive me away. No wonder he no longer cared about Qinghe either. Turns out it was all to make room for Shu Yao. Now that his dream is shattered and he has become a laughingstock, the people in the capital who sneered at him are back in full force. Who is Princess Mingzhu? Surely he, Pei Wenyan, doesn't think he is good enough for her, right? Ridiculous. Let's not even mention he already has a wife and concubines, but among the young talents, does he have it? It is truly a toad wanting to eat swan meat, shameless. It is a good thing the princess recovered her status in time. If she had really become his concubine, Pei Wenyan, wouldn't that be slapping the royal family in the face? He is the heir of a marquise's estate, and he doesn't even have this much discernment. Besides the unpleasant words from the scions of noble families, the servants in the mansion were also gossiping in private. Pei Wenyan, however, acted as if nothing had happened. Unmoved, he no longer delved into my interactions with Shu Yao, nor did he threaten or lure me after returning to the Marquise's estate. Instead, he started showing concern for me, from the 3 meals a day to dressing and grooming. Even the wooden hairpin he had promised was fulfilled one by one. The wooden hairpin was roughly made, but it was carved by his own hands. Bai Qing saw this and muttered softly, "Clearly, you don't love her anymore. What are you trying to achieve by acting like this?" Yes, when we got married, he said he would personally make me a begonia hairpin, but later he personally refused. Too busy with affairs, scarce wood. He always had all sorts of excuses to evade this promise, but now he could easily place the begonia hairpin before me. I was immersed in the sweetness woven by Pei Wenyan, as if I had returned to the time right after we got married. Qingran, I figured it out. Living a good life together from now on is more important than anything else. He is sincere and keeps his word. When I caught a cold and had a fever, he stayed by my side day and night and personally fed me medicine. Until one day, when Pei Wenyuan handed me the medicine again, I turned my head. Husband, Qingran invites you to watch a good show. As soon as I spoke, Biqing dragged in a maid. Does my husband know that it was this maid who put something in my medicine, which is why I've been sick for so long? Her intentions are unforgivable. There is no need to keep a maid like this who betrays her master. At my command, The maid was dragged into the courtyard. He blows with a plank, and she was a bloody mess. Dead Pei Wenyuan's expression was particularly grim. Pei Wenyuan's kindness to me is obvious to all. Everyone says he has settled down, cherishes me like a gem, and dotes on me. Even Qinghe, seeing this, naturally assumed that we were in a harmonious relationship, living in perfect accord. But as my condition improved, Pei Wenyuan became less attentive to me than before. The sweet soup he sent contained pears that made me have difficulty breathing as soon as I ate them. The clothes he bought were infused with musk that could cause miscarriage, and sometimes he would fail to support me when I walked. When I discovered these things, Pei Wenyuan would always frown and cautiously say he hadn't noticed. The next time another careless incident would occur, I guarded against him day and night, and only then did I avoid being harmed by him. As the months went by, Pei Wenyuan's image as a loving husband deeply resonated with people. But when no one was around, I always felt an unignorable killing intent emanating from him. I sighed. Husband, do you remember what it was like when we first got married? At that time, despite his illness, he lifted my veil, and under the dim candlelight, Pei Wenyuan and I met eyes. We were both stunned. His cheeks were flushed with an abnormal redness, making him look more spirited. On our wedding night, I held his hand and carefully guided him, from unfamiliarity to proficiency, until finally he hugged my waist and asked for it again and again. Finally, exhausted, he buried his face in my neck. Qingran, you are the only wife I will have in this life. If I break my promise, may I be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. As it turns out, promises made by men in the heat of the moment cannot be trusted. Pei Wenyuan might have forgotten. When I mentioned it, he widened his eyes and kept repeating that it was impossible. Whether you believe it or not, husband, we are husband and wife, and I wish you well. Pei Wenyuan was silent for a long time, his eyes flickering. His tightly pressed lower lip did not loosen even after he left. The 9th day of the 9th month is a good day. Me father-in-law left the mansion to attend a banquet, and my mother-in-law left the city to pray for the child. Me water broke. Piercing screams continued to resound, and tubs of bloody water were carried out of the room one after another. Pei Wenyuan came uninvited and rushed into my delivery room, his expressionless look completely shattered when he saw the clean baby beside me. What the hell is going on? Who is this child? I stopped screaming, followed Pei Wenyuan's gaze to the child, and gave him a coquettish glare. This is our child, the future legitimate eldest son of the Marquise's mansion. He looked horrified, his eyes darting back and forth between me and the child. Then he suddenly laughed. I knew you couldn't possibly be pregnant. Chu Qingran, you are about to die. I don't know how you fooled everyone, but now that the truth is out, you must atone with your death. Pei Wenyuan had come prepared, and now with nothing to hold him back, he quickly grabbed a pillow to smother us. Once you are both dead, Yao Yao will surely have a change of heart. Chu Qingran, the Marquise's mansion has done everything it could for you. You are the one who deceived first, so you can't blame me for this. He ignored the presence of the midwife, his head muddled by excitement, completely failing to notice that my inseparable Biqing hadn't been there from the very beginning. So at the critical moment when Biqing cracked his head open, Pei Wenyuan looked so surprised. I, however, pulled a short knife from under my pillow and fiercely stabbed it into Pei Wenyuan's chest, giving him no chance to even faint, and he convulsed in pain. Pei Wenyuan was surprised for a moment, but not panicked as I had imagined. Chu Qingran, you dare to kill me. Too bad. You can't kill me, my heart, I know. I pointed to Pei Wenyuan's right chest. Your congenital heart is on the right side, so I stabbed the right side too. Pei Wenyuan lowered his head, his face ashen. How could you possibly know? I laughed. Husband, if you can be reborn, why can't I? In the previous life, Pei Wenyuan protected Qinghe as she fell from a horse and was severely injured, losing all mobility. But he was very concerned about Qinghe. Not only could he not bear to see her bear the anger of her in-laws, but he also gave up and took her into his residence. At that time, my relationship with Pa Wenyuan was already a formality, but as a couple, I took care of him day and night and tolerated all sorts of things when he threw tantrums. His body, which he had finally recovered, was ruined to save Qinghe, a drastic difference that Pei Wenyuan was destined not to accept. Therefore, although I saw him and Qinghe being intimate with each other, promising to never leave each other, I also saw him resent Qinghe. If it weren't for you, would I have ended up like this? If I could, I'd rather have never saved you. Pei Wenyuan's words became more and more extreme, and his mental state worsened. She couldn't blame Pei Wenyuan, so she could only endure the bone, chilling scolding again and again, until she finally lay sick in bed, no longer having to appear before Pei Wenyuan. I went to see her, and it was different from what I imagined. After falling ill, Qinghe seemed more spirited, with a gleam in her eyes. She said it was great, that she hadn't had such a relaxed moment in a very, very long time. At that time, I was in charge of the household, and various medicinal herbs kept his life hanging by a thread, which could be considered doing good deeds. It was also then that Pei Wenyuan's gaze fell upon me again. Years of persistence, gentle and soft comfort, and even meticulous and considerate care, moved Pei Wenyuan deeply. In his spare time, he would talk about the funny stories from when we first got married, and come up with ways to make me happy. He said, "Ran, it is so good to have you by my side." He said he finally knew now that I was the one who was best to him. Therefore, after rebirth, he naturally assumed that I would tolerate him without limits, and even my death should have been arranged by him. "Why, don't you love me? How could you bear to kill me? Who exactly are you?" Pei Wenyuan clutched his chest, unable to comprehend how Qing Ran, who had been devoted to him in his previous life, could show no affection at all. He stared at me intensely, his eyes reddening at the corners. Compared to the killing intent and shock that appeared at the beginning, Pei Wenyuan was now more fearful and confused. I glanced at the sleeping child, then got up and walked in front of Pei Wenyuan. "Husband, you are wrong. I did love you, but I never thought of killing you. You forced me." I patted Pei Wenyuan's face and whispered in his ear. "In my last life, you were paralyzed for so many years, and I still didn't want to kill you. Why are you forcing me to do this in this life?" My fingers slid from Pei Wenyuan's cheek to his neck, and then from his neck to his chest, pressing hard on his wounds. Amidst Pei Wenyuan's screams, I shook my head with regret. If I had known this would happen, I should have let you die at the stables from the start. I was expressionless, but Pei Wenyuan was shocked. "What did you say?" "The stables? It was you who tampered with the horseback then." He grabbed my hand and asked repeatedly, his voice trembling, as if in disbelief. I covered my mouth in surprise. "Husband, didn't you know? Otherwise, why did you use that reason to divorce me back then?" I tilted my head to look at him, and in the next second, I clapped my hands together, my tone full of surprise. "I remember now, husband. You wanted to divorce me so you could marry Princess Mingzdu, right?" Pei Wenyuan's blood flowed more and more, dyeing the ground red. He was unrepentant even at death's door. "If not for the Marquise's mansion and me, how could you enjoy all this? Qingran, you are ungrateful and you'll die a horrible death." I don't believe in curses. If curses worked, the ones who should die are Pei Wenyuan and his parents. If it weren't for me, you would have died long ago. But you used me and now you want to get rid of me. Is there such a good thing in this world? I am not stupid. My in-laws' constant criticism and Pei Wenyuan's neglect made me sad. But what made me even sadder were their schemes behind my back. I heard the Shangyang County princess is looking for a husband. If our Wenyuan wasn't married, we could try. With his looks, he might just catch the princess's eye. What is so difficult about that anyway? That woman has no family background. Even if she dies, can her tenant farmer parents get revenge for her? Madam, this is all for Wenyuan's own good. Soft-heartedness at this time is not a good thing. But will Wenyuan agree? The conversation between my in-laws stopped abruptly, But when I later saw Pei Wenyuan handing me bowls of tonic, I knew. He agreed too. Since that is the case, why should I endure any longer? Husband, you all forced me to do this. Pei Wenyuan died, his eyes wide open, the blood on his chest already dark. I sent someone to inform my in-laws, tidied myself up, and then appeared before people with the child. Facing Pei Wenyuan's cause of death, I explained to outsiders that he was stabbed in the heart by an assailant, while saving me and the child. Me in-laws knew his heart's secret, and coupled with my pale complexion and recent childbirth, they didn't suspect me. Instead, Qinghe became a suspect. However, with me handling things on the outside, she didn't suffer much. Under Shuyao's pressure, the Jingzhou prefecture quickly closed the case. My in-laws didn't dare to investigate openly, but their secret searches hit a wall everywhere. Naturally, Shuyao's help was indispensable in this. I hired the descendants of those midwives to work on the estate. With threats, they naturally knew what to say and what not to say. After a few more years, when my in-laws' bodies weaken and they pass away, no one in this world will investigate anymore, and my cheap child became Pei Wenyuan's only child. Inheriting the title of nobility was only natural. As for Qinghe, he gave her a choice, but she hadn't made up her mind even when the child could walk and talk. I rolled my eyes and simply advised her to stay. You won't worry about food and drinks at the Marquise's manor, and no one will stop you from doing what you want. She thought about it and resolutely agreed, becoming even more naturally inclined to eat, drink, and have fun, and dote on the child later. As my in-laws aged, I took full charge of the Marquise's manor. They can only be touched by me, and when they speak of me, it is all words of praise. When it comes to the most virtuous and filial daughter-in-law in the capital, I would definitely be on the list.